is going on, everyone? My name is Wasabi, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Barebone Mods. Today's episode is for the Ips V2 Screen. I actually offer this install on my Etsy page, so if you're interested, be sure to check out the link down below. Now, to get started for the Ips screen, we want to actually connect the LCD to the ribbon cable, and it's a little tab that just gently gets inserted. You also want to add some insulating tape to the back of the LCD in the event that it does overheat. This will protect that LCD from damages or anything like that. Also put some double-sided tape on the back of that ribbon cable. Once you fold it down, you stick it nice and neat, easy out of the way. Now, I went ahead and removed the rubber gasket from the original Game Boy and just inserted that screen in there. Also pre-cut some wires that I'm going to be using to connect the LCD to the PCB of the Game Boy, and just did a quick test to make sure that the screen is working properly. It would really suck if I actually had to, do this all over again and everything else like that. It's just, trust me, test before you install. Now with this Game Boy, it was a little dirty, especially around that left trigger. I'm not sure what happened, if it was water damage or corrosion or what, but I just went ahead and took some isopropyl alcohol and cleaned the PCB to the best of my abilities. And once the Game Boy PCB is cleaned, you then want to solder to the following points: TP2, SW2, and SW3. These three connections are going to be coinciding with that ribbon cable to control the brightness of that screen. Once you've gotten all of those points soldered to the PCB, you then want to connect the following points to the bottom three connections of that ribbon cable. Now, I apologize, I don't have all the connection points, but if you see how I map this out, you can get an idea of how to connect the ribbon cable and the wires correctly. Now, I will say that with this Game Boy, because of that corrosion on the right trigger, it didn't allow me to set up the brightness control of the Game Boy in the traditional sense, where you hold select and press right on the trigger to turn it up and left on the trigger to turn the brightness down. So I had to reconfigure it so that when you turn the brightness up, hit select, and when to turn it down, you hit the left trigger. Now, I know this can be a little finicky for some people, but for the purpose of this build, I just wanted to make sure that it's functioning properly. Any further kind of cleaning or changing out of the triggers or anything like that, I didn't want to do because I'm not getting paid for it. So I at least wanted this mod to work to the best of its abilities. And as you can see here, I'm kind of tinkering with the connections a little bit just to try and control that brightness a little bit better. It did take me a minute, but I eventually did get it. Once I got the brightness set up, I actually did put the Game Boy in a brand new shell from retromodding.com, link in the description down below. This shell is actually great because it's already pre-cut for an IPS screen. It comes with everything that you'll need to make the install permanent if you like, or you can do it temporarily. I recommend just adding the screen and keeping it in there and not trying to keep changing out. The more times you remove that LCD from the Game Boy and put in another one, the higher the chances of you damaging that screen. And once it's damaged, you're gonna have to buy a whole new one. You don't want to go through that. So once you go ahead and have that foam permanently adhered to the back of the shell, I went ahead and took out all the screws for the Game Boy, and then I added that screen, just did a quick transfer, added that screen to the new shell with all the buttons, the membranes, gave them a good cleaning and everything else like that. There was an issue with the button not going in properly, and that's because some of the plastic when it was printed was extra, so I had to actually take my X-Acto knife and kind of cut that off just so that it would fit perfectly in the Game Boy. I also went ahead and cleaned pads, the silicone pads for the Game Boy, just to make sure everything's nice and neat and pristine. And the other thing that I want to emphasize is that for the IPS screen, it does come with little pieces of plastic. You can add those if you want that screen to stay in tight, and that's what I did here. I just pre-cut the size that I need and just removed the sticky backing from the plastic just so that everything is concise and nice and neat. Then I went ahead and screwed the PCB back to the Game Boy shell and got everything in place with the buttons. I ran a final test of the Game Boy just to make sure that everything was working. and everything turned out great. I would say overall this is a relatively easy build, and if you don't feel comfortable with adding this kind of install to your Game Boy, you can always be sure to check out Barebone Mods on Etsy. That being said, I do hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial video for an IPS V2 screen. As always, my name is Wasabi. Thank you for checking out the newest episode from Barebone Mods, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace!